Hi, it's Sandy here, and today we're going to be making Spot novelty birthday cake, which is pretty exciting stuff. I've got a transfer here of Spot that I'm cutting out, and I've got a bunch of stuff ready on the bench here. So I've got my cake. I'm actually using pre-made cake today that I've purchased rather than making my own, just because I'm actually at someone else's house. I'm on holiday actually, and fancy that, I'm making a cake on holiday, but I thought the easiest way to go would just be to buy a pre-purchased one, and we're going to work with that one today. But that also just goes to show you how easy it is to make a cake that looks good with minimal effort, because all we're doing really is we've got the pre-made cake and we decorate it, so it's pretty easy. So this is my Spot pattern that I've got, and I actually got that from a birthday cake book that I'd actually borrowed off a family member, and took the transfer, or the pattern from the back. So we're just cutting it out now, and then we'll be getting started. So just to go through the things that we've got ready here, we've got our Spot pattern that we've talked about. I've got my pre-made cakes here. I've got some chocolate that I'm going to use for part of the decoration on Spot's tail and the spot that sits on his body. We've got some ribbon that we're going to use to decorate the present that he's holding, because he's actually holding a present. I'll show you the picture in the book there. So there's Spot holding his present. We've got some icing sugar and butter to make some frosting. It's easy. We've got some colouring. We've got a blue one and a yellow one. We've got some writing icing in black there. I've also got some licorice strips that we're going to use to make some of the detail, or show some of the detail on his body. Got some Smarties, and that's pretty much it. Some baking paper, and our mixers and bits and pieces that we use to get the project underway. So I'll talk you through it as we go. So I found this really nice, I don't know what you call it. It's actually a chopping board, I think, but it's a really nice shape for us to put our cake on. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is cover that with foil so that we're ready. Whoops. That's not quite as much foil as I needed, but actually it's not too bad. So we're just going to cover that tray with foil. It's much easier than rather than trying to transfer the cake later, is to have your sort of presentation surface ready, and then you can just put the cake directly on there. There's our little surface we're going to work with there. So next thing we're going to do is I might actually get some frosting ready. So we've got some butter, some icing sugar, and we're going to mix up some frosting now. Okay, so I've got my 3 cakes here. I bought 3 cakes, hopefully to try and fit my Spot shape in, and this is going to be the tricky part, trying to fit Spot onto my 3 cakes and then cutting him out. So my 3rd cake here, just trying to work out the best way of going about it, because I can sort of fit him on a little bit diagonal. If I cut his tail off maybe a little bit, or maybe even direct his tail in a little bit of a different direction, that might be the easiest way to go. And that way I can kind of get all of him in. I'll just cut off that bottom bit there, that'll be alright. So I'm going to go about trying to cut my Spot shape now, and I'll come back to you and hopefully I'll have a perfect Spot shape ready to go. So here we are with Spot the dog, and we've learnt 3 valuable lessons from that little exercise. One is, it's better to start cutting your cake on the plain board and then transferring it onto the foil, because what I found was that I was cutting bits of the foil, so I've actually had to replace that. Number 2, sponge cake is really crumbly. And number 3 lesson, I figure there's nothing you can't cover up with icing, so don't stress too much. I mean, there's a few little nicks here and there where I'm sure Spot isn't meant to have a little nick, but I figure we'll cover him up and no one will know any different. So here we are with our cut out Spot, ready to get on to the next stage. Okay, so here we are, we're icing Spot, and as you can see we've got the yellow on the top, and we've got the blue present at the front there, and I'm just doing the sides of the blue present now. And one of the things you'll notice is the sides of my yellow Spot haven't been done yet, and that's because what I found was the frosting that I made was a bit runny, and so I had to put it back in the fridge before I did the sides because it was just going to drip off. Amazing what quandaries you can get yourself into. So here we are, we've iced the top of Spot, and we've iced all of his present, including around the sides there. I haven't done the sides of Spot yet. One of the other lessons I found is that I actually followed a recipe here for some frosting, and it made the frosting actually quite thick and not really that easy to spread. And so what I was finding was when I was trying to spread it, I was getting a lot of the cake coming up, a bit like trying to put cold butter onto a piece of bread. It was picking up the cake as it went along. So I decided to warm the frosting a bit just to make it a little bit thinner so it would spread easily. And then of course I had the opposite effect, which was my icing was at my frosting was too runny. So I've done the top of Spot's body there, but I actually had to put the frosting back into the fridge before I did the sides because it was just going to be too runny to try and do the sides with. So I'm almost at the point of getting that out of the fridge and doing the sides, and then we'll have the major sort of frosting component of the cake done, and then we'll be looking at just doing the finesse and the decoration. So excited about that. Okay, so here we are, we've got our iced Spot. We've completely iced all on the top and around the sides of him, and his blue present. What are my lessons from this bit? Well, always make sure you've got spares. So for example, I was running out of frosting and had to be a little bit skimpy around the sides with it, and I didn't have any extras here, so it was make do with what I had. So there's a lesson there. The other lesson I think would be, just try and be patient. It's really easy, especially when you're getting near the end, to start, like I was really careful at the start, but then as I was getting closer to the end I started to get a little bit rushed and made a few mistakes here and there. So try and maintain your patience. If necessary, take a break for 5 minutes and then come back to it, but try not to rush that last bit because it's a shame when you've done such a good job to sort of muck up at the end. And the other bit would be just a quick sort of finger around the base. Can sometimes get rid of, you know, extra icing you've got sitting here and there and help make it sort of look a bit more professional in its presentation. So we're on to the next phase now, which is going to be to decorate Spot. Here we are with our finished Spot cake, and there's Spot, complete with his brown spot. A little half a red Smartie as his tongue. There's his little present with decorations on top, and that's our completed Spot cake.